Hello, I am Nick, aka No Panic, and welcome to the picnic. This is episode number 1 of my podcast. I'm not sure if I should call it a podcast, but whatever this is, where I'm talking about stuff to the internet, here it is. Episode 1, Nick Picks. It's gonna be the topic of pornography, because that's what Nick, picked, so that's what you get. So this is particularly focused for people who struggle with pornography. There will be another podcast episode, hopefully next week, all about if you have a loved one who struggles with pornography and how to help them. And this episode is all about the person who struggles with pornography. And it's going to be a lot of mental health stuff. I'm not going to be talking about pornography. I feel personally that is the answer to pornography, mental health. But I'll talk more about that later. Almost all the information I got from this is from my personal thoughts and from Sara Brewer's podcast, Overcome Pornography for Good. So if you like the things that I'm talking about, then you should check out that podcast. It'll be very similar. It's okay if you disagree with me on the things that I'm talking about. I'm going to be saying a lot of things. If you don't like something that I said, then that's okay. It's fine to disagree with me. But I hope that you can disagree with me in one part and like what I say in another part. It's okay to have mixed feelings like that. You can take what you like and go for it. Just hope that you don't like one thing I said and then you disregard everything else. So yeah, at least take into consideration the things I'm gonna say. That would be cool. So timestamps. I'm gonna go through 5 main slides. I'm gonna talk about introduction. Is pornography a habit or addiction? What's the difference? Conditioning behaviors and unconditioning behaviors. It's okay to struggle. Everyone has problems. Everyone has something that they're struggling with. It's never gonna be perfect. Watching porn doesn't make you any less of a person. Everyone has things that they feel drags them down. So, willpower. Willpower is not going to be the answer. This is the big reason why I feel so strongly to talk about this topic. I think so many people in our culture in the church believe that willpower is going to be the answer. And then when willpower fails, right, when it runs out and then they mess up again, then it leads to like, I feel bad and I'm worthless of a person and I'm not strong enough. And I just want to say that I don't think that's right at all. I think that it's not at all about one being not spiritually strong enough or mentally strong enough. I don't think it's going to be the long-term answer. And I don't think it's going to be anything about phone filters or similar kind of filters. People who struggle with pornography have conditioned themselves to view pornography as a way of escaping negative emotions. So there. And the answer to this is to uncondition yourself and to cope better with negative emotions. Alrighty, here we go. We're going into the big stuff now. What is the difference between addiction and habit? So, something strange. Normally, in church culture and stuff, and just commonly as I hear, pornography is referred to as an addiction. But let me just challenge this belief real fast. So, definition of an addiction, right? I put it up there on the screen. It is physically and mentally dependent on a particular substance and unable to stop taking it without incurring adverse side effects. So, it means like being addicted to a certain thing means it has some kind of a physical or mental harmful effect when you go without that. Right? But there's a similar thing, but it is without the harmful effects. A habit. So a habit is similar to an addiction, as in it's a thing that you do repeatedly, but stopping it doesn't mean that you have bad side effects. And I feel that this is what pornography is. So, a settled or regular tendency or practice, especially one that is hard to give up. Notice that the one that is hard to give up. I didn't add that. That was just in the definition when I Googled it. So, habits are just what you are used to doing. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. Yeah. I feel that calling pornography an addiction is harmful to the people who struggle. And that because addiction has such a terrible connotation, rightfully so, you say, like, you're addicted to pornography, and then it has harmful effects on them, thinking like, oh no, I'm stuck with this, right? I'm addicted to this thing, right? It has the mindset of addiction, and that's just gonna be bad. Compared to the mindset of, this is a habit, this is what I'm used to doing as a way to avoid negative emotion. I just want to throw this out there of, stop viewing yourself as someone who is addicted to pornography. View it as someone who has a habit that you've conditioned yourself to view pornography when you are stressed or when you feel negative emotions. This is a much better mindset and can lead to much better places than the addiction mindset. All right, conditioning behaviors. So, psychology, Pavlov's dogs. So the story goes, Pavlov had a dog, and when the dog was given food, then the dog would salivate. Pavlov would ring the bell, then there would be no reaction. The dog doesn't care about the bell, right? But then during conditioning of the dog, then Pavlov would ring the bell and then give the dog food. And ring the bell and give the dog food day after day after day after day, right? For several weeks. And then eventually Pavlov would ring the bell and not give the dog food, and noticed that the dog was salivating because the dog now expects food. Now, how does this relate to pornography? So, the bell would be negative emotions, and before introduction to pornography, then negative emotions would lead to some other behavior. But then eventually some kind of a way, because the internet, then one would find pornography as a quick way to get dopamine. So the quick connections in your mind go, oh, this is a quick way to be happy, right? Because that's what the dopamine is, happy. But, it's fake. It's a very short-term happy and is a very bad route for the long term. The brain likes the short term. Right. So then, because of pornography giving dopamine, now negative emotions as a way to escape will mean view pornography. So negative emotion, right? You feel sad, you had a hard day at work, you're all stressed out because there's a bajillion homework or whatever, right? Then a way to relieve of the negative emotions would be to view pornography. It's something that you just conditioned yourself to do after doing it many times. But you can uncondition yourself to do this, right? The way that Pavlov unconditioned the dogs to disconnect the bell from the food is he would ring the bell and not give food, and ring the bell and not give food, and ring the bell and not give food, and eventually the dog figured it out that, okay, the bell doesn't mean food anymore. The bell is just now a bell. It's not connected to food. So the answer is going to be to have a different way of dealing with negative emotions. Now, I have a way in mind that I think will be great. So, negative emotions. When you feel bad, that's okay. It's okay to feel bad. It's okay to be stressed. It's okay to be sad or to be angry or any kind of those things. I feel the best way is to listen to your emotions and talk to them and try to be intimate with them. Like, understand why you feel that way and how you can best help yourself. Fix, maybe, the things that are causing this. Or at least do your best or understand why it's happening. A good way to go about this would be to talk to somebody, a loved one and a trusted one in your life, about your emotions, about why you feel angry or sad or stressed or any of these kinds of things. Not about pornography, but about emotions will be healthy, I believe. A very common thing that'll happen in the church, right? Because Sara Brewer mentions it again and again and again. This is how she first started out. She is a member of the church and would help people who were struggling with pornography. And repeatedly, there would be let's say there's like a young man, right? And he struggles with pornography. And then he thinks to himself, but I'm going to go on a mission. And when I'm on a mission, the internet isn't as available, right? So you can't see pornography. It's just not an option. So after 2 years of not seeing pornography, then I will be okay. It's clean slate. I won't struggle with that anymore, right? And they go on the mission, and it's great and happy and good, and they don't struggle with pornography. And then they come back, and they struggle again. But that doesn't make sense, right? But it makes sense when you think of it with this context. So, when you're conditioned something like Pavlov's dog, if that unconditioning never happened, right? The dog was just conditioned to hear the bell and to expect food, right? And that happened, and then the bell disappeared, and it wasn't there for 2 years. There was just no bell, right? And then magically, there's a bell again. The dog is still conditioned to believe that the bell means food. So even after 2 years, your brain still remembers the bell means food. So the mission is not the answer because it's not a way to uncondition yourself. The mission is an equivalent of taking away the bell. And then when you come back and real life hits you again all at once and all the stress and all the things, then the conditioning from before hits you again of, well, your brain remembers that pornography, that's the quick hit, that's what I need to feel better again. So, yes, that's a very common story. Wanted to share that. All right, now we're on to the shame cycle. As you can see, I have a beautiful art up there of the depiction. Yep, I know, I'm such a wonderful artist. But the big idea is that an individual will view porn, right? And then, as a result of viewing porn and having the idea of porn is a very, very bad, negative thing, then that leads to, well, I am now a bad person, leading to shame. Shame feels bad, right? Thinking there's something wrong with me, I'm worthless, these kinds of things lead to someone feeling bad, right? And now what do we condition ourselves to do when we feel bad? Well, pornography, again, is the answer because that's the dopamine, right? So when you feel bad, you view pornography, all right? And it's this never-ending cycle. The idea is going to be, when it comes to breaking this cycle, so when you view porn, feel shame, feel bad, then break that cycle, like questioning the shame. Yes, it's okay to do something bad. Everyone makes mistakes. But the big point is to improve ourselves and to understand ourselves. Because porn is seen as such a giant, huge red flag in the culture of the church, then it is equally seen as like this major shame thing when someone views it. So, and pornography is one of these things where it's only as powerful as you think it is. So, if you see pornography as this huge, gigantic demon of a thing, then that's what it's gonna be in your mind. It's gonna have immense power over you, gonna make you feel terrible every time, right? But if you take that down and you see it more as a unhealthy thing, a waste of time, like these kinds of thing, then it's gonna be less as powerful. It's gonna be not as big. It's gonna be a lesser thing, and therefore easier to overcome because of the way that you view it in your mind. I'm not saying that porn is okay. I believe that porn is a bad thing, but I am saying that church culture believes it commonly to be second to murder. I mean, I've heard that before, and I think that's ridiculous. I think that's giving it way too much power. So, right, viewing porn leads to shame, thinking there's something wrong with me. My life would be great if it wasn't for porn. Like these kinds of things, that leads to feeling bad. And I want to touch on this. No one has ever felt so bad about themselves and hated themselves to such a degree that it has fueled them to improve. In order to improve, you need to love yourself. I'm going to talk about this later, so I'm not going to talk about it much now. But moving on, beliefs, feelings, actions. So, beliefs. Everyone has beliefs. These typically show up in your family culture and the culture of where you grew up and what you were told, what you were taught, what actions you observed. Then you have an idea of what's okay, what's not okay, what are the big things to how to live your life. So comparing your beliefs with your actions or other people's actions of the past will result in your feelings. You do something that you believe is good, then you feel good. You do something you believe is bad, you feel bad. That's the basic idea. And try to notice what your beliefs are. And the way that you can do this is to figure out the pattern of your feelings. Because your beliefs will lead to your feelings, then you can recognize every time this happens and I feel this way, it means I have a certain belief. So when you think about the origin of your belief and figure all that out about what you believe, where it comes from, now think about what the belief is. Does it lead you to do good? Is this a good thing? Or does this belief always drag you down? Does it always make you believe that you are lesser, that you're not worth it, or unworthy, or any kinds of these things? It may be a good idea to challenge that belief and replace it with something else. So, it is a difficult thing, but it is worth it. Here's an example. So let's say there's a girl named Jennifer, right? And she goes through elementary school and she has all good grades and all this stuff. And then she goes to middle school and oh man, in algebra in middle school, they add letters to do math. And that just doesn't make any sense. Time after time, trying to understand the math and failing and not doing good on the quizzes and tests and not understanding the homework and not understanding what the teacher says because the teacher is not very good at teaching this particular student, then this can lead to a belief that she gains, which is, I am bad at math. But just because you struggle with something doesn't mean you need to make it part of who you are. That doesn't mean that it needs to be a belief about yourself. So, in the future, let's say that Jennifer in 20 years, right, she has a friend and they're talking about the friend who brings up math in some kind of way. But the friend is an excellent teacher and goes step by step and says that this means that and how that results in the graph and all these things, and it actually makes sense to Jennifer. And she discovers that math isn't this huge, big thing that she thought it was. It's actually much easier. Right? This is an example of a belief that happened and that was stuck on, but that drags someone down. And that it would be helpful for someone to challenge it and to remove that. And that this is a step to self-improvement. So next, going to be talking about feelings. So your beliefs lead to your feelings. Depending on what your beliefs are and what your previous actions or actions upon you have been, then that can lead to your emotions, right? Someone did something mean to you, well, now you're sad, right? And then feeling sad will lead to an action. Feelings are fuel for your actions. And some fuel is good and some fuel is bad, but the main way of understanding what's good and what's bad and to avoid having emotions that will lead to bad mindsets is to not react super fast on what you're feeling. Right? If you're feeling angry, then stop and take a second and recognize why you're feeling this way. It is a very good idea, especially with negative emotions, to understand, why do I feel the way that I do? To have that relationship with your emotions is very powerful, and I feel a very core meaning, a very core thing in mental health. Right? If you have a good relationship with your negative emotions, then it'll lead to doing healthier things with your negative emotions instead of unhealthy things. Moving on. I have a metaphor for everyone. So, everyone is like a seashell. Let's say you're at the beach and you see a seashell and it's pretty cool, right? So, you like the seashell, you're going to take it, you're going to bring it home with you, you're going to clean off all the dirt and polish it and make it look really nice and all these things. Put effort into it. Care for it. And then, put it on your shelf and wow, that looks cool. But if you at the beach and you see a seashell and you don't like the seashell, you're not going to do anything with it. It's just going to stay there. You're not going to care about it. You're not going to put any care into it. You're not going to do anything about it. There is no such thing as liking the seashell and then that being motivation for taking care of it as a result. That doesn't make any sense. So, how it applies to us, very similarly, we are all like a seashell. When we look at ourselves, do we care about ourselves? Would we metaphorically take ourselves home and clean off the dirt and polish and then spend time and effort into making ourselves better? If you care about yourself, then that will lead to improving yourself. If you don't like yourself and you believe a lot of bad things about yourself, then this will lead to giving up on yourself or believing that that's just the way that you are. And there's no point in trying to be better. There's no point in trying to improve. That's just the way it is. Everyone has the same potential. Everyone can be good. You're not stuck the way that you are. Life is like a marathon, right? And there is still time to improve yourself on who you are, what you believe about yourself, and improving yourself. Hating yourself is not going to lead to improvement. The very first step is going to be to love yourself as you are, to understand that, sure, I struggle with this thing, but that's okay. I'm still a good person. I'm still valuable. I'm not any lesser because of this thing. You don't decide your value based on what others believe. Others' belief can commonly impact yours, but ultimately, your beliefs will decide what you think about yourself, who you are. And the very first step of countering struggling with pornography is going to be to learn to love yourself as you are. All right, final notes. So this is the last bit. Yep, I added that funny meme in there because I think it's funny. Hopefully it doesn't make too many people angry. If you disagree with me on any of the things that I said, that's okay. It's okay to disagree with me. If you like the things I said, then I highly recommend Sara Brewer's Overcome Pornography for Good podcast. It has many, many episodes. And yeah, I'm sure you'll enjoy that if you enjoyed this. Reach out to me if you have any specific questions, or if you want, you can type in the comments. And maybe other people can voice their opinions on your questions or whatnot, or whatever you want to do. I don't know. Say whatever you want to say in the comments. I don't care. And if you think this was helpful, then you should share it with people. Obviously, the intention of this is to help people. So the more I get it out there, the more that goal is achieved. And yeah, I appreciate it. I'm not entirely sure how long this was because I'm going to cut it a lot because I talked a lot and messed up. But hopefully it wasn't too crazy long. Thanks for sticking with me. I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.